And what I was saying, that I'm not trying to say that all religious people are evil.
No, that wasn't
Okay.
the way that I was going
Okay,
with this.
I
I was
just
just
wanted
kind
to
of
make sure.
curious what your view is and whether you believe that people can experience that, and perhaps it's just something that you personally have not experienced.
You see, the thing is, you have, in all different cultures, you have stories of that happening, and it's always their God. And religion is a very cultural thing. I mean, if you go to the Middle East, a lot of people are Islam, and they, they claim a lot of Islam-style miracles. Here in America, we claim a lot of Christian-style miracles, and over in Asia, they claim.
What about those who would convert, though? I mean, surely there are examples of people who have had this vision or believe that they have had God say that
Yeah,
they
and
exist
I've
and
heard
convert
those
as a result
stories,
of that.
and I find them unconvincing. Even go back to another slide. Even if the deity, appears, it's kind of difficult. How can I know it's the only one? How can I know it's all-knowing? How can I know it's all-powerful? I have read stories of conversion. The one that I very vaguely remember was the one of Francis Collins. He went, he was walking one day, saw a waterfall, which something about the divine Trinity, I don't really remember. But he claims that was a vision of God in his sense, and he surrendered to Jesus. But, to me, that isn't really convincing, because that could be interpreted to mean just about anything. Mm-hmm. So, even people who have claimed to met God, there are ways that you can be in altered states.
Sure.
Many strokes, hallucinations. So I find those unconvincing, and I feel like I would need more proof.
Sure. Well, I guess my question, I'm not quite sure whether we're talking past each other, if I just wasn't quite clear, was less whether people claiming to experience this should be convincing for you, or whether you believe that people truly can. From the sounds of things, you tend to be somewhat of an empiricist. At least that's my impression.
Yeah, I am a strict
empiricist. If they observe or experience something that they definitively know as God, my question is whether you believe that experience can happen, or whether you think that's just them being delusional in some form or another, not whether it should suffice to convince you that a God exists.
Obviously, if there is an all-powerful, all-knowing being, then he should be able to appear in a way that can't be construed as subjective.
Well, for those people, it wasn't subjective.
That
was the question.
For those
more
people,
whether you believe.
For those people, it wasn't. But there are like the cold fusion experiment, for an example. People have completely failed to replicate this. There's also another experiment with like some guy with bees and bees where he claimed to see something, and nobody was able to replicate it. And even if it's a group of people, even if it's like an entire group of people, to me, that's not really a convincing reason for me to convert. Mm-hmm. For me, it has to be done in a way that absolutely cannot be explained by any sociological factors. And there are sociological factors behind a lot of group visions. If you talk to Dr. Avalos, he's done a lot of research on this. So, yeah.
I guess when it all boils down to it, religion is more just faith.
Yeah.
Which is why I guess religion has helped me, and I know like a lot of other people, it gives you more of a hope that better times are coming, and like when, like back to the suffering thing, suffering might not be good, but it's an experience everybody goes through with death and loss of people around you. I just think it's part of life, and with that you through some of those experiences I found more faith in God and more hope for something after.
And with me, it's been one of those things where I don't take any comfort in faith. I take more comfort in recognizing a problem and figuring out the root of the problem and then solving the problem. I find that much more appealing, and I find that to be far more productive. And that particular type of religion, you know, I really don't feel I can step in and say, hey, that's bad. I mean, obviously I don't agree with it. You know, I think my opinions are better than yours, just as you think your opinions are better than mine. But I don't think that that's a bad way to approach it. Instead, where I think religion becomes a problem is when people use it to kind of exert themselves over another group of people.
Right.
Like, for example, one of the arguments that I've seen in defense of a divine being is that God is somehow a human universal, and I think that's I interpret that as a very passive-aggressive way, as saying, if you don't believe in God, you're not human, because if religion is a human universal, then what am I? So, and I don't think, like I said, I don't think that version of faith is bad. It's just I simply don't agree with it, and I don't hold it to be true.
I guess it's more, I know some people do take the faith thing as, I don't know, well, this doesn't sound like an easy way out, where like if they're faced with a problem, they say, oh, you know, God will make it okay. I think mine is more, I have faith that give me like the strength to get through it and like help me figure it out. Like,
and if I were to put it in terms of that way, I would say that I have faith in myself to solve my own problems.
right.
And I don't want to denigrate you. This is just how I see it. So, Dr. Bevan, I think you.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to use this to sort of wrap up, but I did want to point out a change in language, as you were saying, that the persons have said to you that a belief in God is a human universal, therefore throwing into radical question your humanity. And then you switch to say that religion is a human universal. Are you as put off by persons who say that religion is a human universal as you are by persons who say a belief in God is a human universal?
I'm equally put off by them both. And I've kind of, you know how I've kind of alluded to the alternative medicine movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you really look into it, like the people who are against vaccination are incredibly arrogant in their claims, and they just like some religious people, I'm not going to say all, but like some religious people, they try to demonize their opponents as well. And I don't think that it's necessarily belief in God or religion, but more so when you say that my beliefs make me better than you. And granted, I think this is a very difficult thing to get away with, or to get away from. It's very easy to get away with religious. That's, yeah, like I said, I have a negative view of religion that I really can't hide. But, you know, even though that's difficult even for me to get away from sometimes, I think that that is where the bad in religion comes from. So,
Well, as you can see, it's time for our class, and thank you, Joe, for doing